The Chase Sapphire Reserve is one of the most popular travel credit cards on the planet. But we've just heard some new rumors that this card is going to be massively changing. My name is Sean, and I'm here with my co host.
Hi everyone, I'm Sherwin, the other half of the Credit Card BS podcast. Today we're going to discuss some of the leaks circulating online about Chase Sapphire Reserve changes that are upcoming. We think these rumors are actually quite reliable at this point, so my assumption is that these changes will be happening unless there's news coming out later on. I would say these changes turn Chase Sapphire Reserve much more into a coupon book-like card that we've seen, for example, the Amex Platinum go in this direction rather than its like one high annual fee and one easy to use credit that it currently has. Sean, would you agree?
Yeah, it's a very, very good take on it. I think we've seen all of the premium travel credit cards go that route.
Yeah, so the main change that we are seeing is that it's going to go up the annual fee, that is, to $795, which is a really hefty $245 increase from its current already existing quite high annual fee of $550. So, Sean, wow, that's even higher than the Amex Platinum, which is currently at $695. Does this mean we can expect the Amex Platinum to go even higher, perhaps to, dare I say, $895 or $995 fee?
I would highly suspect so. I don't think Amex wants to have a second tier card in that sense, meaning they don't want the Platinum card to be outclassed in the annual fee by anyone else. So I suspect within a year of the Sapphire Reserve changes happening, the MX Platinum will also increase an annual fee. I would probably say yes, maybe even $995. I would not be surprised if they just go, screw it, we're going to the 1K mark here.
Yeah, definitely. And I can also see the Chase Sapphire Preferred going up to a $150 fee after this. If this happens, it seems like a trend that a lot of cards from multiple issuers are making, so to speak. And I think they've really realized that customers are willing to pay higher annual fees if they can sort of justify it with a bunch of credits, even if they're harder to use, than having fewer easy to use credits, but technically a higher effective annual fee, if that makes sense. While this adds complexity to the cars, supposedly makes them easier to justify, even from the consumer end. And it's actually cheaper for these issuers to offer cars at these price points because if they're giving a $300 annual travel credit that's easy to use, like the current Sapphire Reserve, the issuer is probably paying out of pocket for most of that. Whereas if they have these deals of DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever, they're probably not really paying sticker price because they've negotiated some sort of deal with that company itself. So it's actually going to generate them more revenue to collect these higher fees, even if they're offering more credits technically.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because I'm sure they're probably able to negotiate better deals with a lot of these, providers, because when you go to a provider, if you have a $50 or $100 annual fee card, you can't really argue that your clientele is that wealthy or that specific, right? It's just some random card. But when you have a card annual fee of $800 a year, that says something about your clientele and how their willingness to spend money. A lot of these merchants are willing to give better pricing and better deals on these credits to banks that have these higher annual fees, right? Because of what you can say about the customer base, where if I'm a merchant and I'm trying to acquire customers, I want to acquire customers that are willing to spend a lot of money. And who's willing to spend a lot of money? Probably someone with a really expensive credit card that they don't necessarily need.
Yeah. So, and I'd say it's almost a marketing opportunity for the merchants themselves too, because if you're giving a $20 monthly credit, for example, on something, the customer is probably going to end up spending more out of pocket money beyond that every month to just use the credit and eventually become a long-term customer. So I wouldn't be surprised if honestly these merchants aren't even being compensated that much from Chase because it gives Chase as much value almost as the merchant themselves. But speaking of all of these credits, let's just jump right into the credits first, and then we'll talk about the multiplier changes afterward. Just because we're talking about these credits a lot does not mean we're necessarily really excited about them. A lot of these credits for this new Chase Sapphire Reserve have turned this card into an annoying to use coupon book that honestly, I think will drive away a lot of existing customers. So the first one is a $500 edit credit, which is distributed semi-annually, $250 per half year. This is a hotel portal run by Chase for select hotels. I think this is probably similar to the American Express Fine Hotels and Resorts credit. So what do you think about this one, Sean?
Yeah, do you know if the edit portal is more of like a hotel collection or an FHR? Because I know Chase kind of has like an FHR semi-equivalent. Do you know which one this is? Because it depends obviously like on the usability of the credit, and then of course like are you receiving your elite perks? Is it still considered a direct booking and things like that?
Yeah, I would say I don't know super well because I've not studied this edit thing very specifically. I will say I think the Amex FHR credit was quite an effective credit because it got people more aware about how valuable Amex FHR was. I probably wouldn't have really used FHR were it not for this credit introducing me to that. So I'm hoping Chase is able to do the same thing. If they're able to offer those similar perks, elite perks by booking through this, and 250 every half year, I think is a pretty solid amount where it's not just like some throwaway $50 hotel credit. This one, I think, it's not horrible. I mean, I wish they wouldn't split it up every half year. It makes it more annoying. Like Hilton Aspire's resort credit currently, but I don't think it's like an F tier credit. John, would you agree?
No, I totally agree. I think this is definitely on the far more usable side of things, right? If you're someone that wants a luxury travel card, you're probably staying in hotels at least twice a year. Of course, now the usability is going to depend on the markets you're staying in and stuff. Places like Vegas are good. Places in the Middle East are good in terms of if you're not trying to pay over the credit amount. But then, of course, there's going to be hotels like if you probably try to use this in a very expensive city like New York, good luck. You're probably going to be spending way more than the credit is. But yeah, like pretty solid, A or B tier credit, in my opinion.
Yeah. The next credit to talk about is the $300 dining credit via Sapphire Reserve tables, and it's doled out again semi-annually once every half year of $150 each per half year. This sort of seems to me like the Resi credit from Amex Gold, or they're giving you some dining credit, but it's I think $150 for half year is a more sizable amount. And I think Amex Gold gives like $50 per half year. What do you think, Sean?
Yes. I think it's interesting because one thing I really like about like the way the Amex Gold credit works is it's not like you have to actually like reserve the restaurant or anything through Resi to get the credit. You just go to any restaurant affiliated with Resi and then the credit comes back automatically. I'm guessing this works the same way. And if so, that is pretty nice because it is really like not that difficult to use. Obviously, it heavily depends on like where you live because there's going to be places that have a ton of these restaurants and some that have like absolutely none. So if you live in a place where you have a decent concentration, I think this is a pretty solid credit. And yeah, 150, that is like a definitely good enough amount. You could have multiple people go out to dinner on that, or of course, I'm guessing you could split it over multiple dinners. So I think it's a pretty solid credit. It just kind of depends on the like portfolio of restaurants in the Sapphire Reserve tables collection. But if it's anything close to Resi, which a lot of these restaurant portals seem to have pretty good collections, then yeah, it's a pretty solid credit, I would say.
I mean, these restaurants tend to be higher end though, right? So like, would you agree
Yes.
that you'd be spending more money than a typical dining experience?
Yes, I will say I don't know how it works for Sapphire Reserve tables. There are a few fairly reasonable places on like Resi, depending on where you go. Like I went to a place a few weeks ago in like Southern California, and it was just kind of like a cafe. Like it wasn't even like it was sit down, but it was like a half cafe, half sit down place. Like it really was not that expensive. And like it was two people, we ended up like spending just over $50 and we kind of ate a little, like we ordered, maybe even over ordered a bit. But like, yes, if there's a lot of restaurants where like it is going to be high end and really expensive.
Got it. So the next credit to talk about is the $300 StubHub credit. This one I haven't seen before. It's also semi-annual, so $150 per half year. I think StubHub is a platform to buy like entertainment tickets. Is that right, Sean?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like this is a super random credit. Like, probably most people aren't regularly buying things from StubHub. I mean, if you were going to go to a concert anyway, good for you, I guess. But also the fact that you have to use this twice a year kind of makes me not want to value this face value. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very like hit or miss credit. Like I feel like the people that like book these kind of events probably book a lot of them, or at least twice a year, right? So like great, you're getting full value. But there's a lot of people like me that have never used StubHub like ever once, a single time. And it is like much harder to justify. I think what this credit is like really intended to do, like how you were mentioning the Amex FHR credit, bringing people in FHR. I think this is absolutely intended to like bring people to like book more entertainment things than they need to. Where like, because it's a sizable enough credit, like if it was like I don't know, like $20 or something, people would let it like burn. But I would imagine like people like me, let's say I have this card. If I have $150 every half year, like I'm probably going to use it on something. Like I'm probably going to force myself to use it because like I could probably buy a ticket for $150. So I think that's what it's intended to do, is like bring people to like using StubHub more, which I think it will do. But like for me, like I don't really value this credit because I was just never using StubHub before. I don't really book concerts or events like that.
I mean, I will say $150 is not a negligible amount, I agree, but most tickets these days are going to cost you way more than that. So think of it more like a discount rather than like getting something free. I think most people will still end up spending some money out of pocket to try to use this. Okay, and then everyone's favorite, DoorDash. There is a $300 credit, $25 per month. I will say this is an improvement from the current $5 per month restaurant promo or credit plus two $10 non-restaurant, so grocery promos that we use separately that we sort of ridiculed in an earlier episode. $25 per month seems like you can actually get a meal rather than $5 a month. So I mean, I think if I had this card, I would try to use that. Whereas the $5 one, I'm like, whatever. Sometimes I'll just let it burn. They also market the DoorDash membership that comes with as $120. I'm not sure I would really value it at that dollar amount, but
because the other Chase cards give like a Dash Pass membership as well, right? Like I believe the Sapphire Preferred also does. It's gotten very confusing, but like or at least they give like promo periods on it or something, yes. Right?
So but I will say everything below the reserve, you don't really get it for that long of a period.
Yes, this is like a recurring perk, right? It's not like end dated where like the other ones were always like, oh, you get it for a year if you sign up before this time, and then it goes away. So that is true. That is a good point. I think like I do like that because one thing I was like annoying about like the Amex Uber credits like on the Platinum was like you don't even get Uber One, so it's kind of like this annoying like, oh, do I have to pay for Uber One now? Like if I want to get like discounts. So I like that. $25 a month, I agree, is sizable enough. I think like the way to view it is like you're probably not going to be getting a free meal on it. Maybe if you order like fairly small, it's kind of like your tip is paid for, the delivery fee is paid for, and a little bit of a discount on the meal. Or of course, if you're doing like pickup, then it's a bit different. I think this is like definitely a usable enough credit. Like this is something that like, I don't know if I would, like it's not quite as valuable as an Uber credit because you can actually like take rides with Uber. But I think this is something like I would use. And it's decent enough.
Yeah, I agree. The next credit to talk about is Apple TV Plus, Apple Music. You get $250 per year toward that. I actually think this is a decent credit and it's sort of original because I don't think any other cards have like Apple TV Plus credit, and I could see myself using it. I don't know if I would really value it at $250. But like, for example, I personally have really enjoyed the Amex Platinum covering Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO Max. I think that was such an awesome addition to that credit and made the card much more valuable and compelling to me as someone who now has those streaming services. And Apple TV Plus is like a gap in the coverage of the credits I have. So I think this could add some value. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I think it's good enough for sure. I mean, it's obviously situational because there's going to be people that like don't ever use Apple Music or Apple TV Plus, and so then it's going to be like totally trash. But I definitely think, like for me at least, like I use both of those services, so this would be helpful. And I do currently pay for Apple Music, so like okay, that is actually like essentially face value because I'm already paying for it. And so this is like definitely if you already use these services, I do like how like compared to like the Amex streaming credit, right? This is something where it's a lot more like people use it already. It's not a totally like, oh yes, we have Peacock and New York Times. Obviously everyone pays for those services. Like these are very popular, streaming services that a lot of people already pay for.
Yes. Okay, and then to round up here, there's also a $120 Lyft credit via $10 per month. I think this is pretty similar to like the Uber credit from the Amex Platinum, but I would say the Uber credit is slightly better because you could also use it for Uber Eats, whereas Lyft is just rides. But I do like to use Lyft personally, so I could see myself using this. And then there's also $120 Peloton credit via $10 per month. It's probably pretty worthless to me personally. Let us know in the comments if you're going to use this, but I suspect this is not really going to be valuable for most people.
Yeah, I agree. I think the $10 a month Lyft is interesting. I think it acts as like an incentive to like use Lyft or Uber for sure, which is nice. But yeah, nothing like, I'm not going to be going out of my way to like use it if I'm not that month.
So here's my take on all of these credits. I think if Chase Sapphire Reserve were the only like high-end premium card in my wallet, I would probably be willing to like, use this card, use these credits, deal with annoyances or whatever. But as someone who already is dealing and juggling with a bunch of cards with a bunch of annoying credits, especially on the Amex side, I don't know if adding this card on top of that is worth the hassle, if you know what I mean.
No, I agree. I think it's pretty similar for me where like I think they're doing a pretty good job, but some of these credits are like decent enough to where it very easily offsets the annual fee. But it is something where like, is the value proposition so high where it is something that like I'm willing to add it to a collection of already very, very expensive cards? Like I already currently pay for like 9 Hilton Aspire cards, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's like $5,000 a year. Now, people that probably think I'm nuts for that, and I probably am a little bit nuts, but the value proposition on that card is very clear, and it's a differential that is so good, right? That it can, like, you can make an argument, even if people think I'm nuts. Like, I can absolutely make a solid argument for why that makes sense. But like on this card, it's like, it's a little tougher in that sense because like these are so many coupon book credits, right? Like to get this card, it's like, oh, like, I'm obviously not afraid of high annual fees, but it is something where I have so many high annual fee cards already. Does this really make sense? Is the value proposition so high where it's like worth the hassle of me juggling? Maybe. Like, sure, depending on how many cash hotels I'm booking, and if I'm starting to book like concerts and stuff, and then I'm going out to high-end restaurants, like, okay, then I can see the value proposition, but it's situational.
So here's the thing for me. I think it all comes down to whether Chase is able to maintain their high value proposition of their lounge access. As you know, Sapphire Reserve comes with Priority Pass, but a bunch of other cards also do. Now, they have been doing what I think is the right thing and going in the right direction, which is starting and expanding their own more premium lounge network. So, like, obviously, Amex has long had Centurion lounges, but Chase is now having Sapphire lounges, which you can only get in with a CSR or a Ritz-Carlton card. Or like Capital One has had their lounges that you need a Venture X for, and that's going to help them differentiate themselves. So the question will become, are the Sapphire lounges so good that one is willing to jump through these hoops to use these credits, whatever, to justify having the Sapphire Reserve as opposed to the Amex Plat? I think that's a very important question that's going to come down to. So, like, I don't think it's sufficient that the credits justify, fee in a sense. It's almost like the other quote unquote free perks on the card are so decent that you're willing to deal with the credits to keep the card. So I think now here's another thing. If they change the lounge access guest rules to sort of similar to Amex Plat, I think this will lose a lot of its edge. Like, I could see myself preferring the Chase Lounge network over the Centurion one because I can bring guest current rules. But if they change it where you have to spend like $75,000 or more, like on a platinum card, I would say they would lose that sort of edge.
Very good point. Yeah, I agree. I think that is like, especially with the more limited footprint, if they start restricting guests, that would be really annoying because it is really annoying on the Amex side that you cannot bring guests in. And the only way to bring guests in are to spend $75K a year on the card. And it doesn't really make sense to do that on a platinum in like almost any case. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I will say if they are planning on like sticking with this plan to increase the annual fee by this much, they better like accelerate the opening of these lounges at more locations because Amex still has the advantage of footprint wise, and Sapphire Lounge network is sort of new and only at some select airports. I heard they're very good lounges, but they do need to have that coverage for it to be useful for many people. Okay, now another change this card is going to have from these rumors we've read is that you're going to get some perks after spending $75,000. Sean, do you want to run through them very quickly? Because I suspect most people won't hit this.
I think this is an interesting set of perks. So you get $500 of Southwest credit. I don't know if this is like a statement credit or like a goes to your Southwest account. I don't know how it works, but $500. You get Southwest A-list status. Also pretty interesting. You get IHG Diamond status, and you get a $250 the shops credit. I don't even know what the shops is, but you get $250 of it. Sherman, do you know what the shops is?
I'm not sure, but I'm going to look it up after this.
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you $250.
I'll just tell you really quickly why I will not be going the spend threshold. One, Sapphire Reserve only earns 1x on regular spending, so it's a huge opportunity cost to be putting regular spend on this to get there. And number two, the perks are meh, I would say. I mean, if it was like any other airline status, I might be interested, but like the Southwest like doesn't even have a real like business class. So I'm not sure what the huge deal of getting A-list is, especially now that they're making people like choose seats going forward. So the boarding order doesn't even matter. Also, IHG Diamond status, pretty valuable status, but you can of course get that with $40,000 of spent on the ISG Premier or ISG Premier business cards, which is much more easier to obtain. And also the ISG cards earn 3x points on all spend, and it's not 3% back because ISG points are worth less than cent per piece, but that's still a better return in my view than 1x chase point. So I'd rather go for that. Not super compelling to me. Now the $75 number does scare me because that is the number Chase or the Amex has to allow you to get guests in. So if they change it that way, I don't want that to happen. As of now, that's not on the list.
Yeah, I feel like the one thing I do appreciate that Chase is doing here is they like, even though these perks like don't really make sense, like, oh, I'm gonna go out of my way to spend 75K. It is a substantial enough set of perks that it actually means something to spend 75K, where like a lot of these cards, like on the Bonvoy Amex card and on the Amex Platinum, it's like, oh, you spend 75K, and it's like, I feel like I'm just getting a little like medal or something. Like, it's like, oh, you're going to bring in guests, or like, oh, I get like one extra useless Bonvoy cert. Like, at least this is like a suite of perks where it's like, okay, $500 of Southwest credit. Like, that is undeniably pretty valuable. And like two statuses that are like,
I still don't think Southwest and ISG Diamond are the right things to put here. I think if they had like United Silver and Marriott Titania, that would be more compelling, personally.
That would be interesting. Well, you would only need one of those, right? Because like you get silver with titanium.
Right, but even one of those is going to be more valuable than I just don't think
that's true.
People are going to be super motivated to spend $75,000. These statuses that you can get that either like don't matter that much, Southwest, or that you can get much more easily with another card like ISG Diamond. That's just my take. Okay, and then finally, let's talk about these multiplier changes, which is interesting. So 10x Chase Travel Hotel and Cars is going to be reduced to 8x. 5x Chase Travel Flights is going to increase to 8x. So anything you book in the portal is not going to be uniformly at 8x. And then 3x direct flights and hotels are going to increase to 4x, but 3x other travel is going to reduce to 1x. Yeah, Sean, what's your gut reaction to this?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of these multiplier changes. Okay, sure, the 3x is increased to 4x, but it's like, really, how much money am I spending on? I mean, maybe I'm, like, okay, there's value there for sure, like, I get it, but then the fact that 3x other travel is reduced at 1x just feels weird because the Ink Preferred earns 3x on general travel. Like, maybe they end up nerfing that or something. Maybe they want me to hold both cards, I don't know. But it does seem a bit odd. It seems like a big nerf to me. I do think the FX Chase Travel Flights increasing to 8x could be interesting because as far as I remember, I think it's the highest multiplier in any kind of like flight portal currently available. And, booking flights through a portal is not as harmful as booking hotels through a portal, not even close, because you still earn all your flight benefits. Yes, it becomes a total like hassle to change the flight, but assuming the flight goes well, like you have the same perks. So you're just like earning more mileage now. So I think it's interesting. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, but like I can see the value prop to some people.
Yeah, so a few observations. 10x hotels going down to 8x, I think is an L because the Venture X, which has a much lower annual fee, has 10x on hotels. So people are going to prefer that. I think them raising flights and hotels to 4x, they're sort of taking a page from the Wells Fargo autograph journey card, actually, which gives 4x on flights and 5x on hotels, even if you book directly. I think people see the value of that flexibility of booking directly rather than through their portal, getting points for that. That being said, the 3x other travel, I think, is a loss. I do tend to use this category for things like transit and parking charges and stuff like that. And so losing that flexibility, I think, is a loss. I think they need to keep it at least X personally, since that's what the Sapphire Preferred offers.
Yeah, it seems weird to like downgrade the multiplier on the higher.
It also makes it annoying because I do like to use this card to actually put travel charges on because it has the best like travel insurance protections. I never really have to second guess myself because I'm like, at least I'm going to be getting 3x on most of my travel. So now it becomes a question of, oh, should I put on another card of higher multiplier but worse travel protection and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay, so what are your thoughts on this new Chase Sapphire Reserve coupon book change? Let us know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. It greatly helps support us. And if you're interested in opening any credit card, please consider using one of the links down in the description below. It greatly helps support the channel. And Sean, why don't you plug our Discord?
Yes, if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers and credit card enthusiasts entirely for free, check out the Travel Lane Discord at the link in the description. You will learn a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.